Apologize and I'll be your wife again. 3 months after running off with her ex, my wife texted me that. I ignored it. Then she showed up at my house and went pale when her two best friends opened the door. I learned that love should never require begging, and marriage cannot survive without respect. I didn't win by holding on to someone who no longer wanted to stay. I won by protecting my time, my dignity, and my peace. Closing a door isn't a loss. It's how I finally moved forward. She thought she could play with my time until I taught her how the game is really played. She walked past me with her coat half on her eyes, already on the door. I was holding a still warm paper bag from the Thai restaurant, keys swinging on my finger. I asked again. I figured we'd have dinner together. She looked at the bag, then at me, her mouth twisted. I'm going to eat with the girls. Turn on your football and fend for yourself. She didn't wait for my answer. The door clicked shut. I stood in the silent kitchen, the Thai food getting cold, the TV remote exactly where I'd left it, like a faithful boat waiting for me at the dock. If I'd known where all that was going, I would have stuck that first sentence on the fridge like a danger warning. I put the food on the plates anyway. Habit beats pride. A Tuesday. I sent a message. Enjoy, and got a thumbs up back. No words. The first bite tasted like a chewed-up receipt. The next night, she was with the girls again. The other one also stopped being routine and became a joke I wasn't in on. I'm not needy. I own a small auto shop. My day is noise, grease, and decisions. I don't run after anyone, but when your own wife starts treating the house like a locker room, you have two options. Ask questions or pretend silence is music. On Friday, I tried the simple approach. What time should I expect you? I asked at the door. She was already wearing a dress that didn't fit the word girls. Don't stay up. That wasn't my intention. I just want to know if we're still pretending to be married this week. Her mouth twitched. Don't start. I'm not starting. I'm just checking the score. She rolled her eyes. I need space. We've already talked about that. We haven't talked. You talked. You delivered it. I'm following up. She gave a short, sharp laugh. You're being dramatic. Dramatic would be changing the locks. I'm just asking for a time. She grabbed her purse. I'll text you. She didn't. Around midnight, the door opened. She moved like a tenant, trying not to wake the landlord. The next day, I washed my coffee cup, put it upside down on the drying rack, and didn't say a word. If she wanted a silent house, she'd get a silent house. On Saturday morning, I left coffee on the counter for both of us. She walked past it, picked up her phone. I'm meeting Jael and Brooke for brunch. I made coffee. I'm not hungry. It's coffee, then I'm not thirsty. She waited for my reaction. I didn't give her one. I took my cup, sat at the table, opened my work calendar, and started drawing lines. What's that? She asked. Boundaries. I answered. This week I'm doing evening shifts. I get in after 9 almost every day. You don't need to plan anything with me, and I'm not planning anything with you. Her eyebrows shot up. Are you angry? I'm organized. I pointed to the page. I'm also taking my personal money out of the joint account. The bills are still paid. Your fund didn't blink. What's that supposed to mean? If we're roommates, we're roommates. Rent paid, lights on, pantry, full spa nights, and mystery dinners are on your dime. That's petty. It's being an adult. She stood there with a hand on the chair. So this is a punishment. It's clarity. You said you wanted space. Here's space, time, money, and nights. You have yours. I have mine. She looked at me for exactly 2 seconds longer than she should have, and then smiled. Great. Do what makes you feel big. I already feel my size, I replied. Slim down your keychain. The garage now has a code. I'll send you yours. I finished the coffee and put the cup in the sink. Enjoy. Brunch. She left a few minutes later in heels that were trying too hard to exist. I looked at the garage keypad a little longer than I'd like to admit and called my foreman, postponing my Monday routine to Sunday. If home isn't where the plan is, you take the plan somewhere else. In the afternoon, figuring the girls lived near downtown, I drove around a bit. I'm not the type to follow anyone, but sometimes a man wants facts more than dignity. I circled the wine bar, the trendy taco spot, the river walk. Nothing. I ended up going back to the shop, changed the oil on a truck I'd been putting off, and told myself I was being an idiot. On Sunday, we had plans. My friend Nate's couple's barbecue. At 3 p.m., she came downstairs in jeans and a look of minimum participation. Ready? I asked. I think I'm going to pass. It's Nate. We already confirmed. She winced. Tell him I'm tired. You tell him, I said, handing her my phone with Nate's contact open. She didn't take it. Why are you pushing this? Why are you running from everything that involves my name? That's not true. Want data? Monday girls. Tuesday girls. Wednesday, late at the office. Thursday, girls' Friday, whatever. Saturday, brunch. Today, barbecue with my friends, and suddenly it's nap time. She crossed her arms. You don't make the rules for my life. I do, and I'm going. If you change your mind, you know the address. She gave a crooked smile. Tell him I said hi. At the barbecue, Nate clapped me on the shoulder. Where's Madison? At the spa, I said without changing my expression. On a Sunday. His wife Gi's arched an eyebrow. She's expanding her horizons. Gi's pressed her lips together. Are you okay? I am. Nate looked around, lowered his voice. Bro, if something's wrong, something's wrong. I'm handling it. I cut him off. We ate. People joked. The world didn't fall apart because my wife skipped a burger, but when someone asked where she'd been lately, and I replied around the way the question hung in the air, told me I wasn't the only one noticing. I filed that information away. I don't ignore a fire alarm just because I don't see flames. I got home at 9. The house was dark. It stayed dark until 2 when she came in and left her shoes by the door like a convenient trail of innocence. Everything okay? I asked from the hallway. She jumped. You scared me. Didn't mean to. You're up late. Up early. I said we needed to align schedules. Not now, she said. I'm exhausted. Tomorrow at 7 before I leave. I turned on the hall light. Will you be there? What if I'm sleeping? Wake up with an alarm. She looked at me, measuring if I was serious, and shrugged. Fine, 7 is perfect. She showed up, hair up, expression closed. Here's how it's going to be, she said. Household expenses remain joint. Personal expenses don't. Dinners aren't automatic. If you want to spend time with me, put it on the calendar. If you go out after midnight, send a text. I'm not asking for permission, just basic courtesy. That's controlling. It's the opposite. You have maximum freedom, minimal assumptions. And what do you get? Information, respect, or enough data to make new decisions. She sat down without asking and drew a coffee circle on the table with her finger. Can I say the same back to you? You can, I said, and you'd get the same from me. So if I go out, you go out. Seems fair. She looked at me. Are you going to follow me? I wasn't planning on it. Then drop it. You're making a storm in a teacup. Then it should be easy to find a middle ground. She hesitated, then sighed. I'll try. Happy. I don't do happiness on command, but I heard you. She put her hand on my shoulder on her way out, casual, like we were colleagues finishing a meeting. It was nothing. It was also more attention than I'd gotten in a week. That night, she actually cooked chicken, rice, vegetables. Poured my drink, touched my arm, passing the salt, like we were still us. This is nice, she said. Yes, I agreed. I know I've been distant. Work has been heavy. Jill is going through some stuff. I'm listening. I'm going to cut back on the late nights. Good. She smiled with her mouth, not her eyes. Maybe we can do that weekend you wanted. Maybe, I said, and I said it like a cop says slow down. We put the dishes away. She came closer on the sofa and rested her head on my shoulder for a minute, like she was remembering what home felt like. 10 minutes later, she looked at her phone. I told Jill I'd stop by. She's having an event. I'll be quick. How quick? 2 hours or so. Put it on the calendar. She rolled her eyes, but she wrote. Now are you happy? I'm informed. She left at 9 p.m. At 9:10 my phone buzzed with a calendar update. Jill back by midnight. At 12:40 nothing. At 1:20 a.m. text sat there. Don't stay up. I stared at it like you stare at a faulty car part that insists on being reinstalled. I grabbed my jacket and keys. I went to Jill's house. Lights off, clean driveway, no cars. I pulled over to the curb and killed the engine. A porch light across the street came on. A neighbor peeked through the curtain. I waved like an idiot and drove away. On the way back, I stopped by the shop. Did work I didn't need to do. Tools don't lie, and right then I needed something in my hands that didn't lie. The next day, I moved my things to the guest room without a speech, without drama. Folded shirts, carried them down the hall, put them in the drawer, and sent a text with the Wi-Fi changes and the new garage code. The note said, nothing personal, just adapting. She replied with a thumbs up. Nice. That night, she tried to provoke me. So this is it. You're just going to move out of our room. I'm reducing confusion. You're punishing me. I'm setting expectations. I pointed to the calendar on the fridge. You're out again. She lifted her chin. Girls' night. Which girls? You don't need names. If I'm your husband, I do. If I'm your roommate, I don't. Pick a column. She took a deep breath. Jail and Brooke happy? Text by midnight. If you forget, don't bother coming back that night. I'll assume you chose another house. Her eyes flashed. You can't say that. I just did. She scoffed, grabbed her purse, and left. At 12:10 my phone remained silent. At 12:30 silence. At 1:10 a.m. text. Phone died. Staying at Jay's. No apology. No, you were right, just a memo from someone filling out forms in a department I hadn't signed up for. The next morning, I channeled my initiative outward. At the shop, I called a quick meeting. Nate, my foreman, Luis, and Eli from reception. New hours, I said. I'm switching to earlier days. Nights are mine. Luis, you take the late shifts with overtime. Eli, any personal calls for me? Take a message. No unexpected visitors. Nate looked at me. House moving furniture. We're good on payroll. Everything okay? He said, eyes gentle. You sure you're okay? I'm going to be. I said we're done with chaos. Now we make schedules. At lunch, Jill texted me. It was a novelty. We weren't close outside of group plans. Can we talk? She wrote. About what? I asked. It's important. Brooke too. Not over text. I named the place. They chose a coffee shop near the university, neutral public lighting, too bright for nonsense. When I walked in, they were together at a back table, both looking like they'd decided on something heavy and didn't like it. Jill spoke first. We're not here to cause trouble. Brooke folded her hands. But we can't keep watching this. Watching what? I asked, though my stomach already knew. Jill passed me an open phone, a thread. Photos, screenshots, Madison's name at the top. Words, lots of them not. Poetry, logistics, names times inside jokes that weren't from my house, poses with a man I recognized from old stories, her ex's arm, her hand, a bar I knew, a park I once shared with her like it was ours. Brooke said we told her we wouldn't be part of this. She laughed. Jill looked guilty. We should have come sooner. She started bragging about you working so much, about planning to keep what you built. Because, quote, you'd do anything to fix it, about moving back in with him when everything was set. I swiped the screen. I stopped on a line that felt like the punchline to a bad joke. He brought dinner, and I dipped. He's going to eat with ESPN, a picture of Madison's wine glass and a man's watch time stamp that night. Why are you showing me this? I asked. Because you're not stupid, said Brooke. And because she crossed a line we don't endorse. Jill added, we're not saints. We let the first few weeks slide because she said it was nothing, but this isn't nothing. And she's proud of it. I looked at them both. Know that I'm going to act on this, said Brooke. You can't mention us. Jill added quickly. Please. You won't exist in the story. You spoke up, I said. That's what I'll remember. I put the phone aside, took out my own, and texted Madison one sentence. We need to talk today at 7 p.m. She replied, instantly busy. My reply not optional. Hers. Fine. I looked at Jill and Brooke. Thank you. Brooke's mouth tightened into a line. Don't thank us. Do something clean. I will. On the way out, Jill touched my sleeve. You're not alone. Okay, I know, I said. And I meant it. At 7 p.m., she came home with a courtroom expression. What's the emergency? She asked, leaving her purse by the door. Sit down, I said. I don't like orders. Consider it a calendar commitment. She sat. I didn't waste time. You've been seeing someone from your past. I started. You used your friends as an alibi. You posted about it to those same friends. You told people you planned to keep what I worked for and leave. Her expression barely changed. Who told you? It doesn't matter. It matters because people lie. Screenshots don't. She leaned back. And now, detective? Now it's over. Tomorrow I'm moving forward and closing this down. I'm keeping the house. You keep what you brought. I'll cover a clean exit so we don't drag it out. That's my line. You don't decide that. I did decide. She laughed. You think you're keeping everything? I think the truth stayed. Wait, I said. I don't need to throw anything away. I just need to put it in its place. She sneered. You'll come crawling back. You don't do well with empty rooms. I do fine, I said. They don't talk back. She shook her head. You're making a mistake you'll regret. I regret losing this last month pretending we still had a team, I said. The rest I can live with. She stood up so fast the chair legs scraped the floor. You're arrogant. Okay. Your garage code changes tomorrow. You can text if you need anything. Keep it to logistics. You're unbelievable. Work on new material, I said. And I went to the guest room. The next 2 weeks were deliberately boring. I kept my head down and checked off completed tasks. I met with my accountant and separated what needed separating. I changed passwords, rented a storage unit, and offered to have movers take her things. She refused, then accepted, then refused. Again, I didn't argue. When she sent long texts with old photos at night, I replied with the same sentence. Keep this to logistics only. At the shop, Nate pulled me aside. How's the storm? I told him. I brought an umbrella. He snorted. You're a colder man than I am. Cold is better than dumb. Madison tried the kindness route. She texted. Come home early. I replied. I have plans. She left a lemon cake in the fridge with a note. Your favorite. I ate a slice and threw out the note. She was leaning into sweetness like a pushy salesperson. I wasn't buying. Then came phase 2. She showed up at the shop with a takeout bag, smiling like we were dating. I wanted to surprise you. Surprise, I said. We're in the middle of a service. She held up the bag. I thought we could talk. We talked, I said. I'm not the only one who's been distant. I'm sure I could have been warmer. None of that erases the facts. She put the bag on the workbench, ignoring the no food here sign. Louise looked over from the lift, reading the situation. I looked at her, then at the bench. Can you leave it there? I said. Thank you. I want to eat with you. I'm not available. Wow, she said too loudly. Eli looked over from the counter. 2 customers watched us. So this is it. I wiped my hands and kept my voice calm. We don't do scenes at my place of work. If you want decency, give decency. If you want noise, pick the sidewalk. She stared at me, cheeks tight, grabbed the bag, and walked out. Louise took a deep breath. All good, boss. Better than yesterday, I said. The next morning, a moving truck was in our driveway. Men were loading her boxes while she watched from the porch, arms crossed. I had organized the storage unit, paid the first month, labeled everything. She tried to provoke me with a speech. I signed where I needed to sign for the movers and went back to organizing tools in the garage. A week later, the papers were signed. Clean, no fights over things. The facts weigh what they weigh. She packed the rest of her stuff and left an envelope with the house keys on the counter. If you notice. Okay. On the first day of the 3rd month, a text came from an unknown number. I opened it. Her tone was grand, even by text. If you apologize for the way you handled things, I'll consider coming back. I laugh like you laugh when a TV character says something stupid and you realize it's based on someone real. I took a screenshot and sent it to Jael and Brooke with you 2 marked. Jael's reply came in 3 seconds. I told you she'd show up. Want to add a little spice? Brooke chimed in. Define spice, Jael was typing. Locked. We're stopping by tonight after yoga. 7 p.m. She'll probably pick the same time. We'll be here. If she knocks, we'll open. We'll act like the 3 of us share a calendar. She needs to really see the door. I thought, are you sure? Brooke, 100%. She'd already mentioned she might give you another chance. We shut that down. Jael, also, we're craving sushi. I smiled at the screen. Okay, come at 6:30. I'll handle dinner. We arranged the living room like normal humans do before having guests over. I set plates on the table. Nothing special. At 6:30, the doorbell rang. Jael and Brooke swept in with water bottles and smiles that meant trouble of the best kind. Everything okay? Jael asked quietly. Never better, I replied. Brooke looked around. Your place looks lighter. Objects don't argue, I said. At 7:10 a.m., car pulled up outside. The doorbell rang. Brooke raised her eyebrows. Showtime. I nodded towards the door. You 2 handle it. They opened the door in a choreographed way that said we thought this through. Madison was standing there with a bottle of wine and a paper bag that smelled like rice vinegar. Her face changed color like a cheap mood ring. What is this? She demanded. Jael leaned against the frame like she lived there. Good evening. Brooke took the bag from Madison's hands with a smile, so polite it cut. Oh, amazing. This is exactly what we were missing. Madison blinked. Where is he? Jael tilted her head. Honey, everything okay in the kitchen? I'm perfect. I called back loud enough to be heard like the world's calmest sitcom husband. Madison's eyes widened. You have got to be kidding me. Brooke held up the bottle. Perfect. Madison took a step forward. You 2 don't live here. We do tonight, said Jael. And tomorrow night, maybe again, you never know, with friends. Madison's voice got sharp. What does this mean? Brooke's smile didn't change. It means the door isn't yours anymore. She tried to push past them. Jael moved half an inch. The message was clear. He belongs to me. Madison burst out too loud for the porch. I appeared in view without rushing. Wrong, I said. She stared at me. You think this is funny? I think it's necessary, I said. You sent me terms, she said. I rejected them. I said it's over. She held up the bag with a broken laugh. I brought dinner. So did they, I said. And they were invited. Jael tilted her head. Let's eat while it's still warm. Okay. Madison's mouth opened closed. Her face did the math and hated the result. You're all crazy. Maybe, said Brooke. But we're going to eat. Madison looked at me one last time like an actress on stage waiting for a line I wasn't going to give. I gave her the only one that mattered. Doors closed. Take care, I said. Jael and Brooke closed the door slowly. The knocking that followed was loud, then louder. Then a string of words from Madison I won't repeat. We let the knocking fade on its own. Cars drove by. A dog barked. Real life did what it always does. It continued. We put the sushi on plates and poured water. The three of us sat on the sofa like adults who'd been through a dumb war and were ready to talk about anything else. Jael raised her glass. To dumb wars. May we retire from them soon. Brooke laughed. She had exactly the expression I imagined. Her sense of certainty is a powerful drug. We ate, told stories that weren't about her. At one point, Jael asked, "You sure you're okay?" "More than okay," I replied. "I'm free." After that night, everything became simple. No debates in my own kitchen, no double calendars. The house learned to breathe. I kept the guest room because I liked it. I replaced some furniture not out of spite, but because the old ones had memories stuck to them that made the room tilt. The shop took off. With my routine sorted, we added another bay. Nate joked. Divorce diet for the business. I told him to stop making up names. Luis ramped up production on the late shifts and started saving for his own place. He took the orders and freed me from a lot of nonsense I didn't need to touch. When you stop spending energy reinforcing a broken wall, it's amazing how quickly you can build something solid. I started having people over again, not parties, quiet dinners where adults told normal jokes, and went home at a reasonable. Jael and Brooke became regular fixtures, something that would have sounded crazy 6 months earlier. We didn't talk about Madison unless one of them needed to vent about how she was trying to recruit them again, and they'd reply they were busy that century. One Saturday in early fall, I was setting up a new grill on the patio when a neighbor appeared. Greg is a retired firefighter with a knack for being around when something reparable shows up. "This is too nice for one person," he said, eyeing the grill. "People come over, and they seem to have fun." "They do." Greg looked down the street. "She hasn't been around." "Did she move?" I asked. "I heard she went to another state with a guy who had bigger plans than a mortgage." Greg felt that silently. Sometimes losing is winning. Sometimes it's just losing the wrong thing. He grunted in agreement and handed me a wrench. A month later, word came through the grapevine that Madison wasn't living the fairy tale she imagined. I didn't seek out details. I wasn't collecting wins. I'd heard enough to form simple sentences. The new city was expensive. The ex-boyfriend's big plans looked smaller up close. She was posting photos that forced a carefree look. The friends she told stories to were suddenly busy. Natural consequences don't need a narrator. On a random Tuesday, Brooke texted, "Free for tacos with the gang." "Always," I replied. "Whose turn to buy?" "Yours," she said. "You didn't fall apart when it would have been easy to fall apart," Jael added. "And you let us be on your side without making it weird." I looked at the screen and felt a quiet that had nothing to do with silence. 7 p.m. I wrote, "I'll bring an appetite." At dinner, Nate clicked his tongue and tried to act like he hadn't been worried. G.I.'s gave me a shove on the shoulder and said, "You look 10 years younger," which I refused to admit I liked hearing. Jael rolled her eyes at Nate's joke and ordered more nachos. Brooke dominated the conversation about a disastrous date that made everyone laugh like they were getting paid for it. Later, I drove home through streets that had stopped looking like checkpoints. The house lights glowed like normal house lights. I parked in the garage, killed the engine, and sat for half a minute not needing to fix anything in my head. I thought about how it started. A paper bag, a line about football. How easy it would have been to start begging for crumbs and call it love. How tempting to argue your way out of disrespect, because arguing feels like effort and effort feels like care. The truth is drier than that. Care without respect is just noise with nice plates. You could say I got lucky because 2 people decided to value the mirror more than the mask. You could say I was smart because I moved my pieces before someone else moved them for me. Both would be true. I'm not the hero. I'm a man who didn't accept a version of life where he'd be the extra in his own house. Sometimes people ask if I'd ever sit down and talk with Madison. The answer is no. We already said everything we needed to. Most of it without words. She used a door. I used one too. Mine clicks shut and stays shut. I sleep well. In the morning, I have my coffee without checking if someone is about to abandon me for the girls. On Sundays, I barbecue. On Thursdays, we play cards. I'm seeing someone now, a woman named Dana who laughs with her whole face and shows up when she says she'll show up. We're going slow, and we're not pretending patience is permission for carelessness. She likes the shop and brings the expensive donuts without making a show of it. The dog from next door has apparently adopted me. He shows up whenever Greg's gate is open, sits by the grill, and judges my technique. If this sounds like a victory, it's not the kind that needs a parade. It's the kind where the man you were at the start wouldn't recognize the quiet, but he'd respect the cost. I didn't win anything from Madison. I didn't want a trophy. I wanted my time back. The last text I ever got from her was a single line. You really closed the door. I didn't answer. She knows the answer. Everyone who mattered that night already heard it. Doors closed. Reddit comment. Doors closed. Zero drama. Ego intact. Who needs a fairy tale when you have reality with a garage code?